Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. In this important video, we are going over user stories. So if you are preparing for your PMP or PMI-ACP, CSM or any other agile related certification, you know that user stories is an important topic that you should be aware of. And this should be the first video that you watch on user stories before reading anything up, so that you prepare yourself to understand what this topic is all about. If you're into reading articles, then first link in the description is going to take you to a relevant article on this topic over at our official website pmclounge.com, so you can check that out. Also, we have a playlist that contains every single video that we have done on Agile. That playlist is going to be very helpful if you are preparing for your PMP exam, the Agile part of that PMP exam, right? The second link in the description, that playlist is something that you should watch out for. Third link is a playlist specifically for PMI-ACP if you're preparing for that. So with that being clear, that being said, let's get started. Let's understand what user stories really are. Just a reminder, please hit the like button. It helps us spread the word about PMC Lounge. So what about requirements specifications document, right? For those of my friends here who have been working in the traditional project management waterfall model, right? They have heard about this document known as requirements specifications. So this is basically a detailed document, and it could be 200, 300 pages long, which is usually prepared by a person called business analyst. This is a role in traditional project management. You have a business analyst who works with different stakeholders, and it is also possible that in different organizations this role could be named differently, but typically it's a business analyst job to write a requirement specification document working with several different stakeholders. It could be support, it could be engineering, it could be the field sales team, it could be directly from the customers, right? So the business analyst is going to basically collate all the requirements and create a huge requirement specification document, which could be, like I said, 200, 300 pages long, depending on the kind of project. So this document is going to be your one-stop shop for all the project requirements, everything that the team needs to deliver as part of the project. Now, this document, once it is created, it needs to be baselined, which means all the project stakeholders, they go over this requirement specification document and then they vote for it to be baselined. Once this document is baselined, this is then handed over to the engineering team to start development. Now, in certain projects, instead of engineering, this document is going to first go to a design team who is going to prepare a high level design, a low level design, right? They are going to design uh, all the requirements, and from there on this goes to engineering for coding. So that is also possible. The problem here is that this document is basically changing a lot of hands. After it is baseline, it goes to the design team and then to engineering team. So a lot could be lost in translation while all these different teams and different people are going over the requirement specifications document, which, mind you, is a large document, 200, 300 pages long, right? So the question is, can there be a more agile way of handling requirements? See, one of the problem with this approach is also the fact that the document needs to be complete and it needs to be baselined before any kind of design or development work can begin, right? So that is definitely not something agile, right? That is definitely tending towards the waterfall way of working on projects. So can there be an agile way of dealing with requirements? That is where we come to the topic of user stories, because user stories avoid 300 page long specifications document. So let's get down to the basics. What is a software supposed to do? A software is supposed to help people do things. As simple as that. I haven't heard of a simpler definition of a software than this. A software is supposed to help people do things. Now let's take an example of a software called the hotel reservation system, right? What it does is making use of the website of the hotel. A guest can book a room online. Making use of this hotel reservation system software, the receptionist of that hotel can also assign certain rooms to the guest when they arrive. So that is the use case of what this software is doing, right? So this software is basically help people do things. This is helping the hotel staff assign rooms or book rooms for their guests. Now, if a user asks the team to build a feature, what this means is, let's say in this example, if a hotel staff or the hotel receptionist, who is a user in this case, asks the team is the project team or the Scrum team. So when the user asks the team to build a feature, it's because using that feature, the user will be able to do something that they can do today. So let's take an example of this software where the hotel staff, the hotel receptionist wants to basically have different websites also have the access to the reservation system in a way that a customer can book the hotel rooms from different websites as well, and not just the hotel's official website. That's an example of a user story. That's an example of a requirement, right? So in Agile, the belief is that the most efficient way of building the right thing is to keep the user needs in mind throughout the development process. So the user need was that different websites, a customer should be able to book the hotel room using different websites. So Agile believes that the most efficient way of building the right thing is to keep this requirement in mind, the user needs in mind. And this is a definition of a user story. It is a very short description of a specific thing that the user needs. As simple as that. So what does the user need in this case? The user basically needs to allow to have customers book their hotel rooms using different websites and not just the hotel's official website. That's a requirement which is a user story here. But we'll get to know more about user stories. How is this documented? How is this basically something that comes into the system, comes into the backlog? All that is something that we are going to discuss in the coming slides. A quick reminder, if you're looking for PMP courseware, articles and videos, head over to pmclounge.com/PMP training. Everything is absolutely free. Check it out. So let's talk more about user stories. We took an example of a user story. We took an example of a user need, a requirement, right? And user stories, they're usually written on index cards or sticky notes and not in a 200-page long user story document, just like we had the requirement specification document. So there's no document as such. The user stories are written on index cards or sticky notes. So whatever that we discussed in the previous slide, right? The requirement of having the customer book the hotel room using different websites, that is basically something which is written on an index card or a sticky note. Now, Scrum teams, when they have enough of these index cards and sticky notes, they are going to organize all their work around user stories. This ensures that the user needs are kept in front and center in their planning and prioritization process. So now, of course, they have a lot of user stories and they can plan and prioritize those user stories based on what they can deliver in the given time, right? So this also ensures that the Scrum teams focus on building what their users need, and there are no surprises when the team demonstrates the user stories at the end of the sprint, because once the sprint is over, there is a review meeting, right, where the development team basically demonstrates whatever user stories that they have built. So all these user stories, they are the Scrum team plans around these user stories, and then the Scrum team prioritizes them. In the entire process, user stories are the front and center of what it is that the development team is going to build, and that is why user stories are so important. So we just talked about how user stories are not documented in a 200, 300 page long requirement specifications or a user story document, right? User stories are documented on index cards, note cards, or sticky notes. But you cannot just write two, three lines on these cards and expect it to be called a user story, because there is actually a format which is followed. So usually teams write user stories on note cards following a fill in the blank format. So what are the blanks? There are three blanks here. As a type of user. Second is I want to specific action that needs to be taken, right? And so that what would be the result, right? What I want to happen as a result. So these are the three blanks that needs to be filled by anyone who wants to nominate a user story. Then of course there is a title, and then there are story points also. So title is basically a quick way of summarizing the story. It could be as simple as allowing guests to book hotel rooms online through different websites, or something even shorter than that, right? Then story points, these are basically once the team discusses the user story, right, what is the relative size of this feature, that is what uh, is documented as part of story points. We'll do a separate video on story points, so definitely check the second link out. That playlist is going to have the video on story points when we do it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Now when we talk about as a type of user, this tells the team, the Scrum team, that the role the user is playing when they are using the software. So it could be as simple as a hotel receptionist, or as a customer, as an end customer, right? I want to, this basically means the action that the user takes in the software. So the action that the user takes in the software is actually outside of the software, because as a customer I want to book a hotel room online on a website which is not the hotel's official website. But what should happen in the background is that is the next point, right? So that what I want to happen as a result, this statement basically tells the team why the user wants this feature. So why the user wants this feature is that once the hotel room is booked on a third party website, a website which is not the hotel's official website, a room should be booked in his or her name in the hotel reservation system software as well. So that is an example of a user story. Now, since these stories are short and modular, they act as a reminder for the team to constantly confirm that they are building the right feature. You cannot just, allow your hotel to book rooms, to, take bookings from different websites and then not update in your backend, right? That is something which was mentioned in the third point here. So when the team, the Scrum team, reads user stories again and again, they basically are confirmed. They're basically confirming that they are building the right feature. They are building something that the customer wants, that the user wants. So question for this video, how do you write user stories? Do you actually use index cards and sticky notes and all that, or do you use a software to write user stories? Let me know in the comments. Definitely looking forward to your answers. And that's all that we had in this video. I hope you were able to understand what user stories are. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified every time we upload new content. Don't forget to like this video. Also check us out on our official website, pmclounge.com, your number one free PMP and project management resource. If you like our work, consider contributing at pmclounge.com/contribute. Thank you.